Hey guys, how's it going? We are on my Ret Pally, and I'm gonna be doing a Ret Paladin crash course guide. If you want to follow, or just like have a better guide, Savix, he's like your go-to guy. He's the Ret Pally YouTube guy, and yeah, we're basically just gonna go over like I guess the very basic spells and like what your rotation's gonna go over. Talents and I guess certain situations where you'd want to use certain talents over other talents, and then yeah, it's basically just like a crash course. And then hopefully if you listen hard enough and I guess practice this, you'll be able to play Ret Pally at a somewhat above average level. So starting off with I guess your main abilities, Crusader Strike / Zeal basically just generates holy power. It does physical damage, and yeah, I'll show you guys. Basically you just walk up to someone and generate holy power like that, and then you're going to be using that a lot, so would suggest that. Avenging Wrath, everyone knows what this is. It's just a damage increase 35% for 28 seconds. Gonna close that. Always forget to close that. And increases your healing too. Blade of Justice is our other holy power generator. Basically, same thing as Crusader Strike or Zeal, but it just does extra damage and has a range. And its damage does get increased by, I think, 15 or 32% whenever you use your Templar's Verdict. So, keep that in mind. Blessing of Freedom makes you immune to any slowing effect, so that thing, everyone knows what that is. Blessing of Protection, it's like a bubble, except you can cast it on anyone, but it only blocks spells. Cleanse Toxins, you'd want to use this against a Assassination Rogue or anyone that has a lot of diseases. Unholy Assassination Rogue, you'd want to use this. Bubble, everyone knows what that is. Divine Steed, basically mounts us, gives us movement speed. Divine Storm is your kind of ranged, I'd like to say ranged, it's your ranged holy power spender. So like, if you can't catch someone, you can usually use Divine Storm and then hit them with it a few times if they're not in range of your Templar's Verdict. Flash of Light is just our heal. Every hybrid class has a heal, and a Flash of Light is ours. Greater Blessing of Kings. You don't really need to know what these buffs do, just know that you need to keep them applied on yourself at all times. Hammer of Justice is our stun, 6-second stun. That's about it. It's been here since vanilla. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. Hand of Hindrance is our one slow. Basically slows someone by a lot for I think 8 seconds. I don't even have it barred right now for some reason. So yeah, it's range too, so it's good against hunters, mages, warlocks, anything that has a range. Judgment increases our damage we do by our holy power spenders. So it'll apply a debuff for 8 seconds. That does that. Increase the damage you take by 36% from the Paladin's holy power consuming abilities. Lay on Hands basically just heals you to full health. Rebuke is our interrupt. Redemption is our res. Shield of Vengeance is a absorbed shield that we get that does damage too once the damage of it is fully consumed. Just use this whenever, I mean, you have dots on yourself or you're just getting damage taken. Does damage and it absorbs damage, so don't know why you wouldn't use it. Templar's Verdict is, I'd say, our main ability. Does holy damage and consumes holy power. It's like what the whole build is based around. Wake of Ashes, it's your artifact ability. And Lash Out with Ashbringer, dealing 408,000 radiant damage and additional 513,000 radiant damage over 6 seconds to all enemies within 12 yards in front of you, and reducing movement speed by 50%. So it basically just does a lot of damage. That's all that told me. And it generates 5 holy power, not 3. So you can go just up to someone, use this, and do that. And then you'll have full holy power, so that's a nice artifact trait. Or artifact ability. I remember I thought it was bad and then I used it more and I was like, this is pretty good. But and then Zeal is our Crusader Strike, basically just generates holy power. And then you'll have this buff a lot, but it's pretty passive, at least in battlegrounds. It increases the damage you do by 20% and reduces the damage you take by 30%, because if someone dies around you, you're going to get that buff. So you'll have that buff a lot in Battlegrounds. So, yeah. Going on to talents. Talents, you're basically going to want to use Final Verdict all the time. I don't think I've ever seen anyone use Consecration or Execution Sentence really in PvP. Again, with level 30 talents, you can use Fires of Justice if you find yourself using a lot of Holy Power and getting Holy Power starved. Other than that, I prefer Zeal. Haven't really used Greater Judgment. Maybe if you're going for an AoE kind of build with your Lawbringer talent, you could use Greater Judgment, but I haven't really used it all that much. And I just like Zeal because it hits harder than Crusader Strike and it hits nearby enemies. Usually I use Fist of Justice just because it reduces the cooldown of your one stun. You can use Blinding Light or Repentance if you're really trying to line up CC like an arena or something, but I'd say in random battlegrounds or 2s or even 3s, just like casually, I'd just go Fist of Justice. For level 60 talents, you're going to want to use Blade of Wrath, which your auto attacks have a chance to reset your Blade of Justice, which again is just your ranged Holy Power generator. That does a decent amount of damage. In Battlegrounds, I'd say you'd want to go Divine Hammer, because it's a lot of AoE damage for what it does, and it's just constant holy damage around you. So as long as there's like 2 people around you, I'd say it's better than Blade of Wrath. And then Virtue's Blade, if you're going for high crits, I mean, you can use that. I remember using it, and I mean, you'd get really high crits, like you'd hit for 1,000,000 Blade of Justice. So if you want to just aim for that, then go for it. If you do use Virtue's Blade, I'd suggest Fires of Justice, because you're gonna be, what's it called, Holy Power starved a decent amount. For level 75 talent, I'd suggest Justicar's Vengeance or Eye for an Eye. I don't really use Word of Glory all that much. Justicar's Vengeance is basically just a heal that you can use, and it's like Templar's Verdict, but it deals more damage when the person's stunned, and it heals you for the damage you deal. So that can mix with Divine Purpose is, I think, the main reason. Or like the 2 talents you'd kind of have to take together. If you're not taking Justicar's Vengeance, just Eye for an Eye. Basically reduces physical damage you take by 35% and makes it so you counter-strike people for 158,000 physical damage. This is like the same thing as Retaliation, if you remember what that was for a warrior back in the day. Except it doesn't have a limited number, and it just lasts for a window of time. Level 90 talent, just take this. It's an automatic bubble. Reduces the cooldown of your bubble and makes it automatically trigger. Don't know why you wouldn't take that. And for the bottom row talent, Divine Purpose is usually what every person I've ever seen play Ret go to. Basically makes it so whenever you use Holy Power, it's going to make it so you have a chance to be able to use your Holy Power spending abilities, but not actually spend your Holy Power. You'll see it. It's like this little orange or yellow thing in the middle of your screen. Crusade is the other talent, which is like kind of to pick between the 2 of them. It can ramp up to higher damage than Wings itself, but I just like getting the flat damage increase. But if you do know how to like actually use your Holy Power, this can get to pretty ridiculous numbers. Looks like 45% increased damage and haste, so that's 5 Holy Power spenders. So you can get 5 Holy Power spenders within 28 seconds. Then go for it. Crusade is for you. You'll probably like it. It's like a Bloodlust for Holy Paladins, but I personally prefer Divine Purpose. For Battlegrounds, if you run Crusade, you can play with it. Maybe even in arenas, it's better too. If you have that like mobility or just like the freedom to hit someone for an extended amount of time, but more often than not, I like Divine Purpose. Going on to Honor Talents. Gladiator's Medallion, just because I don't like Adaption or Relentless, and I like being in control of when I use my trinket. Reinforced Armor, all the time for me. You can use Sparring if there's a melee heavy team. I like Jurisdiction, just because it increases the range of my one stun to 20 yards from 10 yards. You can use Unbound Freedom, which just increases your movement speed while you have freedom on you, so that would be good against like anyone that just constantly has a slow, like a hunter, say. I don't really use Law and Order. I mean, if someone dispels your Hand of Hindrance, then I guess go for it. But your Blade of Justice also applies Hand of Hindrance. I feel like that's new. Maybe I need to try this out, because I don't remember that ever being a thing. And Blade of Justice always comes off cooldown in PvP, so I don't know. Let me know if you guys try Law and Order. Let me know what you think about it. Haven't like read it, and I didn't know it applied Hand of Hindrance, so I'll try it here soon. Holy Ritual, allies are healed for 162,000 when you cast a blessing spell on them, and healed again for 162,000 when the blessing ends. So if you use Blessing of Freedom, it's basically just going to heal people for like 300,000 in PvP, which isn't a horrible thing, but I just prefer Luminescence, which when you are healed by an ally, all nearby allies within 20 yards are also healed for 20% of the amount. Basically makes it so it's easier on your healers, makes their life easier. Haven't really used Cleansing Light all that much. Basically makes it so it cleanses everyone around you instead of just you. Vengeance Aura. Whenever you or nearby ally with greater blessings within 40 yards become victim to full loss control effect, so any type of crowd control, you gain 4% increased critical strike chance and damage. Basically just increased damage. You can use Blessing of Sanctuary in, I'd say, 2v2, 3v3, or anything competitive that you can just put on someone, and it would heal them if you take Holy Ritual. And it would reduce the duration of like any kind of stun, horror effect, silence, or anything like that. So probably gonna want to use that in that situation. I've never used Seraphim's Blessing, mainly because I feel like Flash of Light doesn't heal enough to be considered, I guess, a worthy talent. Maybe if you really try to maximize this, it might be good, but don't think I've used it all that much. Lawbringer. Judgment now applies Lawbringer to the target for 45 seconds. Casting Judgment, it causes all enemies within your Lawbringer effect to suffer 5% of their total health and holy damage. I just use this for the 5% total health damage. I think I always have. I feel like it's the best out of the bottom row talents, even though they have buffed the other two. Hammer of Reckoning is fun to play around with Crusade. So that's why I'd take that. It does do a decent amount of damage and gives you your wing buff for 6 seconds. And then there's Divine Punisher, which casting 2 consecutive judgments on the same enemy will generate 3 holy power. So if you find yourself running maybe Eye for an Eye and Zeal, for some reason Crusade not Divine's purpose, and you need the holy power, then Divine Punisher would be the talent to go to. Or at least the honor talent to go to. So, going over our artifact power real quick, or artifact weapon, I don't think there's really anything that's that, like, noticeable, really, other than the fact that you do have a trinket built into your weapon, which is kind of bullshit to me, but you do, you Blizzard. Increased crit, increases duration, increases healing. That's about it, really. There's nothing that monumental built into your artifact weapon. Other than this, which is your holy power spending abilities increases the damage of your next Blade of Justice by 32%. So that synergizes really well with Blade of Wrath. Obviously, if you're hitting someone for a decent amount of time, and you are using your holy power spenders, you're going to be generating enough holy power and Blade of Justices to actually get that damage increase off, and just keep the buff up most of the time. So, I'm going to go over the rotation real quick. And then I believe that would be the end of the video. So, normal rotation. Basically, you're going to want to use Blade of Wrath as much as possible, because it is our, like, not main damage, but it's one of our higher damages abilities. You're going to want to try to keep Zeal on cooldown. You're going to want to only use your holy power spenders whenever you have your judgment debuff on someone. So basically, what this rotation consists around is trying to keep your Blade of Justice on cooldown, keeping your judgment buff up on someone all the time, and then just trying to squeeze in as many holy power spenders as possible in that window as possible. So, and whenever you use your holy power spender, keep in mind you get this buff, which increases the damage of your Blade of Justice by 32%. And with your Blade of Wrath talent, you're going to be resetting the cooldown on your Blade of Justice a decent amount. So you're constantly going to be getting your Blade of Justice to go up off a cooldown. You're constantly going to be generating a lot of holy power from your Blade of Wrath talent. And you're constantly going to be spending holy power. So that's kind of the rotation right there. I've been maintaining it for a while now. It's not the hardest rotation to learn. Basically, if you run out of holy power and you don't have anything else to use, then I would suggest using Wake of Ashes. Anytime you use a holy power spender, ideally you'd want to use Blade of Justice after, just because it has its damage increased and you'll generate more holy power. Outside of that, basically just want to try to keep at least your Zeal from capping, or your Crusader Strength from capping on their charges, and maintaining your Judgment buff in the correct window of trying to fit all of your Templar's Verdict or Holy Power spenders into that Judgment window. So going over Burst, let's say you're going intos. Ideally, intos, what I do is just pop Wings, pop Wake of Ashes, pop Judgment, and then just try to get as many Blade of Justices and Zeals and Templar's Verdict as possible. So we'll go over it. Usually I'll start it with Hodge, pop your cooldowns, pop your Judgment, do that, Wake of Ashes, Blade of Justice, Wake of Ashes, get your 2 Holy Power, and I don't really like generally spending Holy Power if I can avoid it without the Judgment buff. Just getting shafted by procs here, but not much we can do about that. Basically, God, I really did. Basically, if you have Wings up, you're going to do a lot of damage. I think my damage went up a decent amount. If you ever get your Divine Purpose proc like that, and you're somewhat low on health, I would suggest using Justicar's Vengeance. Mainly because it just heals you, and the extra heals don't hurt, and it does about the same damage as a Templar's Verdict. So, there's your Prot Pally Crash Course / PvP guide. If you want to find a more in-depth one, feel free to go look at Savix's channel. I know he's a very good Prot Pally. Not Prot Pally, Ret Pally. It's one of the more simple specs that's melee right now, and you just do a lot of damage. So, yeah, as always, thank you for watching, guys. If you guys liked the video, give it a thumbs up. It helps me a lot, guys. Any questions, comments, tips, concerns, anything like that, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. Feel free to let me know what videos you guys want to see. Feel free to follow my social media and try to catch me streaming. As always, thank you guys for watching. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.